Hey, how's it going, do-it-yourselfers? Today we're going to talk about diverter valves. That's right, we're going to talk about what they are and how they work and whether you can gain more horsepower if you were to replace your stock diverter valve with an aftermarket one. Alright, so diverter valves are used on engines that have forced induction. So my Audi here that has a bi-turbo V6 engine has two diverter valves, one for each bank. One, as you can see here, and another one right here. Alright, so on a turbocharged engine, on the exhaust side, when exhaust gas exits your engine and it gets to your turbo, it spins the turbine of the turbo on the exhaust side. Now the turbine on the exhaust side is obviously attached to the compressor wheel of the turbocharger by a shaft that runs through the center of the turbocharger and spins the compressor wheel. And then the compressor wheel compresses the air, creating boost, and when you have boost, you can add more fuel and therefore make more power. So for example, on this setup, we have air entering here, goes to our filter box, comes back up, goes to this Y pipe, and then it gets split off and goes to our turbocharger on each bank. And then from there, you guys might have a hard time seeing this, but from there, after the air gets compressed, it goes to the intercoolers, which we have one on each side. Then from there, it comes up through these two pipes from the intercooler, enters our throttle body, our intake manifold, and goes to our engine. Now, having boost is great as long as you need it or want it. In other words, your car's computer may be tuned for a certain amount of boost, and they can only work with that amount of boost. If your compressor wheel creates more boost, then it's going to throw everything off, and it's not going to be good for your car's engine. Also, other times you may not even want any boost at all. And a scenario where you don't want boost entering your engine is, for example, when the throttle plate, which is right here on this car, is closed. Now, whether you're sitting behind a traffic light waiting for the light to go green and you have your foot off the gas pedal, or you're shifting gears and momentarily take your foot off the gas pedal, that compressor wheel is still spinning and creating boost in the system. And when you have your foot off the gas pedal, when the throttle plate closes, that boost is gonna hit your throttle plate, and if you don't have a mechanism to get rid of that boost, you could damage the components that make up your turbocharging system, whether it's your intercooler, the pipes, or any other component. And that's where diverter valves come in. So as you can see, let's take this bank for example. Compressed air is coming from our intercooler from here through this pipe to our throttle body. Now when the throttle plate closes, your car's computer will activate this diverter valve, opening it up and allowing for the air, the compressed air or the boost, to go through this rubber hose, through the diverter valve, and through this rubber pipe back to this boot, which is attached to the Y pipe, and that's where air comes and goes back to the turbocharger and allows for that air to get recycled again and again as long as the throttle plate is closed. Now, as far as how are these activated, well, if you look close, you can see a vacuum line attached to the end of both of these diverter valves. These vacuum lines come here, they go to this T-fitting, which goes to this vacuum pipe. It goes underneath here, comes around and goes to this solenoid. Now this solenoid is obviously activated by your car's computer through this connector. Now on this Audi, the boost or the pressure is measured by our manifold absolute pressure sensor, or our MAP sensor, which is here. That will tell the computer how much boost or pressure is in the system up to this point, and if it's above a certain threshold, the computer will activate that solenoid, opening these diverter valves, allowing for the boost to be recycled through this Y pipe back to the turbocharger. And for those wondering, a blow-off valve more or less does the same thing, but instead of recycling the compressed air through the system, it simply blows it off into the atmosphere. All right, so here's how a bad or a worn out diverter valve can negatively affect your horsepower and therefore your performance. Now on the stock diverter valves on these cars, there's a diaphragm made out of rubber that, over time dries out, breaks down, or maybe even tears up. Now when that happens, your diverter valve cannot open and allow for the recirculation of the boost. And when you don't allow for the recirculation of boost, a few things could happen. The obvious one is when you have, you're building up boost here when the throttle plate is closed, you build up too much boost and you could damage some of the components. You could get a boost leak here, damage your throttle boot, this pipe, your intercoolers, or anything else in between these and your compressor. Now, if you're lucky enough and with a bad diverter valve that does not open, you don't damage anything in the system from that extra boost. The other thing that can happen and will happen is that you're gonna notice a lack of power and low boost in the system, because The diverter valve, if it's closed and doesn't open when the throttle plate is closed, that compressor wheel of your turbocharger is still spinning, and it's gonna, it's still creating boost, obviously. And when that boost builds up in the system and gets back to where the compressor wheel is on your turbocharger, it can actually, stop or maybe even make the compressor wheel go in reverse. And when the compressor wheel is going in reverse, you're gonna have absolutely no boost in these pipes before the throttle plate. So whenever you step on your gas, you're gonna notice the car being super sluggish. And whenever you change gears, it's still gonna feel sluggish. You may get some boost when in the higher RPMs, but as soon as you change gears or come to a stop and then try to go from a dead stop, if you have a dead diverter valve, you're gonna feel no power from your turbocharger at all. And then the third and the obvious problem that you could have with a bad diverter valve is a boost leak. So yeah, let's say the rubber diaphragm inside the diverter valve has gone bad. Your turbocharger builds boost, comes up here and goes through here and leaks through that rubber diaphragm back into this Y pipe and then keeps going back to the turbocharger. Again, that's why I got this diverter valve that's all aluminum, including this piston. But not just that, this diverter valve is also adjustable through these springs. So yeah, if I were to swap this spring out with a stronger spring, let's say, when the car's computer through that solenoid sends vacuum through here, it's not going to be able to open this piston up fully. And when you can't open it fully, then you actually can build up more boost inside your boost or turbocharging system. Now with that said, you have to be very careful when you're messing with this stuff, because your car's computer can make up for extra boost than it's supposed to get up to a certain limit. Let's say this car is made to, on a stock ECU program, is supposed to work on anything from, let's say, just 7 to 10 psi of boost. Now, you mess around with these and you build up more boost in the system, and you bump that up to, let's say, 12 or 13 psi. Now your car's computer may be able to compensate for that without being programmed up to a certain limit and actually increase, you get more horsepower and torque because you have more boost going into your engine. But if you were to change the turbos, mess with these, increase the boost to 15, 20 psi without a reprogramming of the ECU, you can run into a really serious problem. You could blow up the engine. All sorts of bad stuff could happen. Now in my case, I am obviously planning on reprogramming the computer on this car. There should be a stage 1 reflashing of the ECU coming up pretty soon. And funny enough, or interestingly enough, on these cars, it's only recommended to replace the diverter valves. It doesn't have to be with a diverter valve with, let's say, a stronger spring that builds up boost. You simply need a better diverter valve than these stock ones, because these leak if you build up a little more boost than the stock computer is programmed for. These could start leaking through the diverter valves. So I'm going to replace those. And obviously, not to mention, with new diverter valves, you get great response time from when shifting gears, opening and closing the throttle plate. These diverter valves might be worn out a little bit. They might leak a tiny amount, but that adds up to a throttle response and the boost you're going to be getting and using. If you enjoyed this video and want to support my channel, do me a favor and watch another one of my videos. You can either watch this one in this corner, the one right below it, or click and watch any of my videos in the suggestion box. That will greatly help as well. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.